If you're the kind of person that you've gone through trial and error, trials and tribulations, but for some reason things don't seem to line up no matter what you try, no matter how you see it, this episode is for you. Hey folks, I'm Sir Charles Carey, peak performance strategist, author, best-selling author, in fact, of the Radiate the Brain series. And I want to talk to you today about resources. You know, many of us look at resources, or how should I say it? We simply don't realize what resources are available to us. Now, there are a lot of resources that are available to us that simply cost. It's an investment, or it's a price tag that you must gain access through in order to learn more, be positioned to do more, in order to have access. And that's fair. And I think that many of us need to understand that to gain access, that's a resource that sometimes doesn't come inexpensively. It's a resource that has or can have massive value. And we should be prepared if you're really serious and if you're really interested in a thing, whatever that is, you should be prepared to move forward knowing that that investment should get you what you need. Now, sometimes we don't get it because we simply don't pay attention, or we don't realize what the true value is. Maybe it has not been explained well enough, and I get that as well. But here's the long and short of a thing. Anytime we're investing, we need to pay attention to what we're investing in. And before the investment is made, we should know what we're expected to get out of a thing, whether it's something tangible or something that's intellectual. So, with that being said, let me just really dig in and get started. You know, resources are something that we all need. Doesn't matter at any stage in your life. You know, an infant, right, or a toddler, they need resources. They need food. They need care from their parents, right? They need milk. They need clothing, their diapers changed, et cetera, et cetera. But as they get older, they become a young kid, you know, whatever the case may be, a young child, their resources have upgraded. The demand for what their needs are much different on a higher level, and so on and so on. As we get older and older, from infant to toddler to preteen to a young man or woman, even in our adulthood, even as we become seasoned, we're always going to need resources, but sometimes we don't really realize what those resources are. And to put it simply, resources are people, places, and things. Yep, this is not an English class. You heard it right. It's a noun. Resources are people, places, and things. And depending on how it's used, maybe some may consider it an adjective. I get that. But let's start with the places and things first. I think that's a good place to start, because when you think about resources and you think about places and things, think about a river, a dam, right? That's a resource. That's also water. Water is a resource. It's a resource for human life. It's a resource for simple travel. Think about the internet, right? Think about electricity. You need electricity to run the internet, or some type of energy field to have access to the antennas, which have access to the satellites, which are transmitting information to us here through our smart devices, our computers, tablets, et cetera, et cetera. You know, those are places and things. You know, the satellite's a thing, right? The internet is a thing. This episode is sponsored by our upcoming webinar, 5 Reasons Your Dreams Never See the Light of Day. It's a True Reality Enterprise Ventures, and we want you to get the information and the insight you really need. Look for the link in the description. Places, you know, your home, for example, it's a resource for shelter, especially in extreme weather conditions. You know, if not, we could all just live outside. Places and things are something that's almost synonymous with life. No matter what you do and where you go, there are going to be places that you're going to be at, and there are going to be things that you do. You know, food, for example, that's another resource. You need food to keep your body moving, to keep your body going, to keep your body functioning. All of these things, pardon the pun, are resources, places, and things. Now, I personally think that many times we underestimate or undervalue resources. Or sometimes we just don't think what actually are resources outside of places and outside of things. Because technically, I don't think anyone considers resources places and things, although they are. But people, I feel personally that's one of the most valuable resources that we have. And having each other as a resource can make the biggest difference between night and day. It doesn't matter whether it's your place of worship, a counselor, a traditional teacher, a family member, you know, that resource coming from another human being can do many things for you, especially if you're trying to learn and grasp how to go further, as a father, right? How to do more, how to have more, how to become more. And many of us don't realize that the greatest resources are the people that are around us, the sphere of influence that we are a part of. You know, people can say, what's your sphere of influence? Yes, but you are also a part of that sphere of influence. Just like you may rely on other people may rely on you. And they're relying on you for your intellect. They're relying on you for your experience. They're relying on you for various aspects of your know-how. But we just don't necessarily consider it like that. In fact, as it has been said, people that are close to us don't usually listen to us. We look at information or we gather things from other people in other places and things, right? But the people themselves, I think, are one of the greatest resources that we have. And again, we don't take advantage of it. You know, when you think about, you know, I wrote some things down, scholars, your parents, right? Your peers. Well, if you want to do something, if you want to know something, you want to know how to do something, why not relate to someone that you know that has done that thing? You don't believe them or you don't trust them because they're your brother, your sister, your cousin, or they live next door to you, or they don't have enough money to be right. Is that your criteria for a person's being a valuable resource to you? I think sometimes we underestimate people, because if you don't have the information you need and you're relying on something, now sure, you can go and pay someone, but are they credible? Do you trust them? And if you know someone that has done something that you have not done, I would think that's a reasonable resource. It doesn't mean that everything they know and that everything that they may share will be applicable to you, but it's someone that you can look to and consider, hey, I've never done this particular thing. Hey, they've done it. They do it for a living. They're telling me about it. I ask a question, they open the floodgates. Or even if it's just a brief tidbit of information, they have shared something with me that maybe I did not know before. And to me, that can be very, very valuable. But we don't usually, well, I won't say we don't. Some of us don't normally go that route. We're willing to pay coaches and others for their experience, but we don't really realize, wow, there is a wealth of experience in my or within my sphere of influence. Again, my colleagues, my peers, maybe in my place of worship, if you're in school, the scholars there, the teachers, right, the educators, maybe even people in everyday life, the policeman, the librarian, maybe someone that's had a business in your community for a number of years. And it all depends on what it is that you're trying to do, what you're trying to learn, and where you're trying to go. Now, people have experience on various levels, but they are still a resource. If you're talking to someone about how to do something and the information they're sharing you already know, well, it's not like they're giving you bad information. You have an aptitude that already speaks to that level of understanding and that level of consideration. So maybe you need someone with more extensive information in that area. And maybe you can even ask them, hey, do you know anyone else that does the same thing that you do? Or, hey, do you know anyone else that does the same thing that we're talking about? And if so, maybe that person will be the ideal person to help you get the information that you need. Now, we talked about places, we've talked about things, and they're all very important resources. And we just recently finished speaking about people. Here's the thing that we also sometimes underestimate. What has life shown you? What has your life's experience shown you? See, experiences are a great resource, especially if you failed, if you've come short. And I always say in my presentations, you've got to fail in order to prevail. So if you're trying to do something, learn something, be something, and you've tried it before and it did not work out, well, one thing for sure, or as it said, one thing for sure and one thing for certain, however that phrase goes, it didn't work for you. But here's the good thing. That is valuable information. At least you know the way you did it before was not good enough. Now, maybe you needed to do more of it. Maybe you needed to do that thing sooner, or maybe you did not need to do that thing at all. But the lesson is it did not work. And because it did not work, you know for sure that's not for you. That's not the approach you want to take. So that's learning from experience. And if you learn after the fact that you failed at something, well, if you didn't take the right approach and you failed and you learned after you should have gone in a different direction, that's your first starting point. Let's go in that direction that I did not take when I attempted to do this thing before. And it doesn't matter what industry, what profession. Sometimes we have to realize that the easiest way to do something or learn something or figure something out, it's a common sense approach. So resources are very valuable, but you have to open up your mind, your mind's eye, to see what you're leaving out, what you're considering or not considering. Can you ear hustle to get resources? Absolutely. In fact, observation is one of the best ways of learning. And it's a valid or can be a very valid resource if you're careful, if you're respectful, because when you're ear hustling, you never know, that may turn into an opportunity to learn once you ask a question. Excuse me, I overheard you say X, Y, and Z. Is that valid as it relates to 1, 2, and 3? A simple, respectful interjection like that may also course correct you to get the information that you need. So look, I'm not going to hold you up any longer. I'm Sir Charles Carey, and I really would love to get more information to you. If you found this information valuable, please like, share, and subscribe so that you can get in touch every time we drop a new clip on something dealing with personal and professional development. This is what we do. We like to radiate the brain and change the game. I'll see you next time.